Hey, let's make some big decisions. Hey guys, we're back with another episode of the $500 Small Account 5-Year Rags to Riches series. We took a little break over the holiday. There was a pretty eventful week last week. I ate way too much food, and I'm still working on the leftovers. So I also got married, so that's a pretty big thing. Let's talk about that first, actually, because it's pretty cool. For the sake of this video, I'm going to keep the discussion related to the impact that decision has, and not the personal aspect of it, because you guys don't really care about that stuff. So since I'm getting married, or since I got married, wow, it's still kind of setting in, this does potentially impact the way that I file my taxes. And tax time is coming up. We have December 1st coming up the end of this week, so it's going to be here before we know it. We know as we get older, time speeds up, so I don't want to get caught off guard by tax season. So with that said, that will affect my limits for what I'm able to claim on my taxes for deductions as far as realized losses. And it also impacts the tax burden that I have. Now, currently I have a $3,000 limit on realized losses, and a $3,000 limit against my salary and income. So ordinary income, also tax losses or stock trading losses, right? And I have that roughly 37% tax burden on all income. So it balances out pretty nicely for right now. So I got two options, right? I can file married, filing jointly, and that will bring my my level down to $1,500 for each of those two categories. So still a total of $3,000, but I don't get to double that. So rather than being able to claim $6,000, I can only claim $3,000 per year, which is fine because again, I have, you know, a business and I have deductions and all that good stuff. So I don't really care too much about that. But if you are someone that is just doing this, or if you have a job and your kind of finances are tight, keep in mind that that's going to affect your limits, and that's best discussed with a locally licensed tax professional, not some guy on YouTube. Or I can file married filing single or individual, and then I can still keep those same limits. Now that does offset the tax burden as well, so it's a little bit of a push-pull depending on your circumstances. So again, just something to be mindful of. You don't have to freak out over that. Just understand that if you do get married, or if there's anything that's going to affect the way that you file your taxes, it's best to be proactive and kind of understand that going into it. All right. So let's get my face out of the way, and I want to talk about some decisions that we have to make today. And this is actually prompted by a discussion from Joker. He's on our Rags to Riches team, and he was trying to figure out what to do with his position in this stock O, right? And O is one of the most notorious dividend growth stocks. It's just one that they've consistently raised their dividend payout for a very long time. It's considered a very stable dividend position. Not the most efficient payout, but it is a consistent growth as far as that dividend goes over time. So let's go ahead and look and just see what we got here. I also have a cheapie on SPY. It's a total of $5. Oh no, there goes my portfolio. So if you see this order down here, it's just the sell order for that. Obviously the price blasted. I was busy. I didn't get to catch it. So we'll just put that down there for now. So let's go ahead and look at the weekly chart on this one, because we have seen a massive rally. If I pull this back down to daily here, we've seen a pretty significant push, shallow retrace, and then a higher push. And now we're kind of running into this resistance zone in the lower $54 range. So if we look at the weekly chart here, we can see that we've got this little retrace on the grand scheme of things. This is what we're looking at, right? We've got this big, strong support level here. That's kind of where we picked it up. We got this liquidity zone right here. So we got a sell side sweep right there, and then it just pushed up. Now, this was on massive volume, and we can see that we're running into resistance. So this tells me we're probably just going to see a pullback and then a potential continuation of the upside, but why risk it, right? Now, I have a couple decisions to make as well, because remember, the purpose of this position isn't just for the stock P&L. It's not just for the dividends. It's a combination of both, right? So I went ahead and did a little bit of math on here, and I'm just going to pull this up so you guys can see kind of what I look at when it comes to making these decisions. So right now, right, if I pull up stockanalysis.com, it's going to tell me that there's a monthly dividend payout on this position of O of roughly 25.5 to 26 cents per share. And again, that's every month. So about $3.12 every year. So let's just work our way down here. My average, my position is $49.47 per share as my cost basis, and I have 3 shares, right? Not a huge position, but given the size of this account, it's about a tenth of the, so it's about 10% of the position. It's a little bit over that, but that's largely the P&L as well. Overall, I've invested a total of $148.41 for those 3 shares. All right. And we're sitting on some positive P&L right here. So obviously the position value has increased. At the time of me doing this math, it was 14.30, and then I bumped it down to 14.27. We can just do it live. It doesn't matter. Which is roughly 53 months worth of dividends, right? So obviously there's going to be some noise in the chart. I'm not too worried about that. But what I need to see here is that if I'm seeing an unrealized P&L amount, I need to convert that into how many months worth of dividends that has, right? Because my goal for this specific series is to trade for 5 years, right? And to show you guys what can happen in 5 years. So if I pull out a calculator, all right, and I put 26 cents in roughly, and I multiply that by 60, right? So 5 times 12 months, 5 years, 12 months, 60 months. That gives me a total dividend payout of $15.60, right? And that's per share, okay? So it's not like the whole position. So realistically, what I have to do in this case is I have to look at this net P&L and compare it per share, not for the whole position, right? Because if I stop buying O and I just let it go for the next 5 years, this would be 1/3 of my actual profits. So I have to multiply this by 3, okay? So in order for me to justify cutting this position early, what I really want to do is determine whether or not these 3 shares are going to yield $46.80 over the next 5 years, or if I can lock that profit in early. So this kind of ties into a previous episode. So it's not just the 1560, right? Because that's just for 1 share. In this case, I have 3 shares, so I have to take that into consideration, okay? So if you're someone who's trading along and maybe you just have the 1 share, right? And if that's the case, if you've got your 5 years worth of dividends sitting on the table in front of you for any position, and your plan is just to trade for 5 years and you can lock in that profit early, you can always cut that position and just take those profits. And you will have achieved 5 years worth of dividends in however long it's taken you to build that far, right? You can always re-enter the position as well. We don't really care too much about the noise in the P&L. I'm personally just holding these because A, I don't want the short-term capital gains burden, so I'm going to hold it at least for a year. And B, I just like the consistent dividend growth, okay? So for me personally, I can't justify locking this position right now. I do believe it has plenty of P&L upside, but I'm really interested in the dividend payout over time. But again, if I was in this position and I had to make that decision, I would need some sort of substitute, right? And that's kind of where we do a little bit of math, right? So here's the dividend payout over time, right? So $3.12 per year at roughly 26 cents per month. And that's a 2.10% annual return on the amount that I've invested for those 3 shares, okay? So, this is a false number as well because I have to multiply this by 3, right? And this is kind of where we're getting into the scalability, right? So if I do $3.12 a year by 3 shares, remember I have 3 shares, that's not 2.10%. That's $9.36 divided by 148.41 times 100, which brings it to 6.31%. So this is actually a good position because if I think about it in terms of, no position is a position, if I just had that same 148.41 sitting in my settled cash bucket, and my broker gives me 5% interest on that, it still doesn't outperform this little 26-cent dividend, right? So for me, it makes sense for me to continue holding this for the dividend as opposed to just locking these profits and running, because realistically, I'd only be taking about 1/3 of the profits that I would be getting over the 5-year period, and setting that money aside in settled cash is still 1.31% underperformed if I had it just collecting interest, right? So in my case, it makes sense for me to keep holding this, right? Now, I don't want to hold this forever because the dividend payoff schedule here, meaning if I collect 26 cents per month roughly, because they don't increase it aggressively, so we can expect this for a long time, it would take 190 months to pay off these shares, right? Which is 15.83 years. And that's not how long I want to hold this. I would like to just rack in that 5 years worth of profits early and shift it into a more aggressive or a more efficient position. I shouldn't say aggressive because towards the end of this challenge, I'll be looking for more stable stuff, not super aggressive stuff. So with that said, I do have a lot of potential here if I just hold these shares, right? And again, I don't really care about this P&L because this, if we think about it, right? If I take my 49.47 or I'm sorry, if I take this 26-cent dividend, okay, and I multiply it by 60, okay, that's $15.60 worth of dividend over the next 5 years per share, okay? I need to add that to my average, 49.47. So the share price for me to get that 5-year payout early needs to be up here at 65.07, which is right here. Okay, so this is where I need the price to get to in order to pay myself off early. Okay, can we get there? I believe we absolutely have potential. Are we going to? I can't guarantee that, right? I just know that the price has definitely been up here before. And I also know that as time goes on, right, I've got two axes to consider. I have this vertical axis, the y-axis, saying, okay, the price has to get from here to there for me to hit my objective for that 5-year payout. Or I know that if it doesn't hit here, I know that eventually in the next 5 years, 5 years from the time that I bought the shares, which would be 2020, somewhere around here, I know that the price has a straight line that I will inevitably hit unless the dividend is cut. It'll either hit this line first or this line first, okay? If the price drops below here, I have to offset this one, right? But again, I get this as a tax benefit, so I don't really care. And it's going to be a long-term benefit. So if the price goes up, I get a reduced tax burden profit. If the price goes down, I get a full offset and I get that refund. Either way, I'm getting those dividend payments, which are also liable for tax. And then it's going to hit one of these two lines one way or the other unless the dividend is cut. Okay, that's all I care about. That's the only two things that are going to compel me to exit this position before that 5-year period is up or at the cut of the 5-year period. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me get this extra stuff out of the way. So just to recap, right? I paid an average of $49.47 per share. I have 3 shares. I paid this much money. This is how much I have unrealized P&L. I need about 3 or 4 times that in order for it to justify selling those shares early. Before that happens, I'll get this much per month, which is this much per year, which is this much percentage-wise on the amount that I've invested, which means I'm outperforming the 5% brokerage interest that I normally get, or a savings account. This is how long it will take me to get to here. All the way to $0 cost basis. So it'll take 15, almost 16 years for the shares to pay themselves off. And I know that I will be holding them until this line gets hit or this line gets hit. Okay. So let me go ahead and end the recording here because I don't want to keep, I want to keep these episodes relatively short because they have a lot of information and I know you guys are super busy, but I kind of wanted to go a little more in detail in this one because you guys are, this is a slower pace thing. It's not like day trading. You don't have to look for liquidity zones and read the time and sales and all that good stuff. So one other position that I am looking to cut, just as a quick summary, is going to be this HVT. It's one of the special dividend ones. I held past the ex-div date, so I can sell this at any point. You can see the ex-div date was 11/27. I bought before then. The shares are settled, all that good stuff. So I can sell this at any time. I have a sell order set here 2 cents above my average. It's the same thing I did with you. It's the same thing I did with CRBG. And it's the same thing I'll continue to do with these special dividends. For this one, I'll get $1 per share. I only have the 1 share, so it is what it is. But they also have a 30-cent share quarterly dividend. So I'll get $1.30 plus whatever P&L I end up with. All right. So again, if the price goes up, I get a taxable profit. If the price goes down, I get a tax advantage plus the dividend no matter what. Okay. So let me end this stream, and I appreciate you guys all watching these. I'll try to get these on a more regular basis. I know we had the holiday and stuff, and we have Christmas coming up too. So we'll catch up as soon as we can. Everyone have a good weekend. Thank you, and be safe.